A firm may have 150 active cases, but then when we look to see, okay, how many of those cases did the staff actually work on? We'll see that the staff actually worked on less than 10% of those cases. One of the biggest areas that I see as an inefficiency for a lot of law firms, and it's hurting their profitability, is when it comes down to workflows. Oftentimes, when I'm talking to the leader of the law firm, the managing partner, or the founder, or the owner of the law firm, and they have staff, we'll talk about, like, hey, what is the staff working on? And inevitably, we'll do a case value analysis where we start to look at the cases and we say, okay, all right, we want to look and see how many cases the team is actually working. And we'll look and we'll say, okay, all right, based on this, you have X number of cases. And in the last week or the last 2 weeks, the team has worked on this many cases. So what that tells me is that if you have 150 cases, when we look at all the time the team spent in the last week, they only touch 15 of the 150 cases. So then the next question I always ask is, well, if you have staff members who are not actually meeting their billable targets, or you have staff members that aren't actually meeting their internal metrics, the question is, like, why are they not meeting it? Because clearly the firm has enough cases for them to actually work on. What we then, after digging for some time, we realize is the problem isn't that the staff doesn't have enough cases to work on. The problem is the staff isn't actually working on the cases. And often what we find is that they're not working on the cases because that case doesn't have a big deadline coming up. And what that means is the staff is kind of using these major deadlines as kind of the way to judge which cases they're going to work on. And for many firms, what we took a step back and we said, all right, this seems to be a process problem. Like, if we really go through the workflow of a case, especially, let's say, for a bankruptcy law firm, if you really look at the case, like, we kind of know what stages this case is going to go through, depending on what type of bankruptcy or what type of legal support they come in for. Well, if we know the stages that they're going to go through, we can probably lay out a workflow to say, hey, these are the things that need to be done on this case. Now, the problem is if the staff is unaware of what that workflow looks like, or maybe the staff is aware, but there's nothing to hold them accountable, the staff may still have that same pattern of, well, I'll work on it if there's a major deadline coming up. So what we started doing is encouraging firms, like, use the workflows and use the processes that are built into your case management software. Because a lot of times these case management softwares will have workflows in it. And what those workflows can do is, once set up, they're going to send notifications to your staff on, hey, here are the tasks that need to be completed for this case to move to the next stage. So let's say if there isn't a major deadline going on with this particular client, there still are some steps that can be done and some support that can be done to help moving that case forward. Because what we have seen is the firms that tend to allow the major deadlines to dictate which cases they're going to work on, they tend to go into this, like you say, workflow roller coaster where there's a ton of work coming up because deadlines are coming. But then when there are no deadlines, not much work gets done. But the firms that tend to use a more consistent workflow or use the workflow management part of their case management software, what they tend to have is a lot more steady work being done, where they don't go through these massive swings of major deadlines, all hands on deck. Is they tend to have a more even flow of their processes, which allows the management team to do a better job forecasting, hey, when we need to make new hires because we know what the capacity is, and you lower the risk of the firm developing a bad reputation because something has been missed on a client's case. So one of the biggest things that I would say that would help is utilizing workflow management software. And oftentimes those workflows are already built into the case management software that your firm is already paying for.
Hey, thanks for tuning into the Bankruptcy Law Firm Finance Show. At the end of the day, we make finance less complicated so you can build a more profitable law firm. If this was helpful for you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and follow us for more great content.